Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Creators Outlet. Please subscribe, comment, and share, and tell a friend. Don't forget, this is available in podcast format. You can listen to the show after the taping, live, anywhere you can get a podcast. Tonight, we welcome our special guest, Chimera. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, welcome. So before we get into Testament 2 and everything in that chock-full campaign, why don't you give us a little secret origin of you and how you landed in comics where you are now?
Sure. I grew up in the Midwest, and there wasn't really much to do where I lived, so went to my LCS, which at the time was called Comic Cavern, and I tried reading superhero books, and they didn't really appeal to me. But then when I discovered stuff like Spawn and The Darkness, that very much appealed to me. And so that was kind of the stuff I read and was into. I originally wanted to be an animator when I was a kid, but after a few years of realizing I couldn't draw, I just stuck to writing. And so been wanting to do that ever since. And so when this whole crowdfunding thing happened, it was a perfect opportunity. I tried to get my comic into shops to no avail. And so I started crowdfunding in 2019 with my first campaign, and then been doing it ever since.
Cool. And how and why did you land in the CG crowd?
I think it was just Twitter. I'd stumbled upon Richard Meyer's videos back like mid 2017, and I found them entertaining while I go to work, and so I listened to the live streams by Ethan and the others later on, and so I guess just pure happenstance. I had been researching comics, for a few years. I've been wanting to do that, and so I noticed the downturn of mainstream comics, and so I just Googled it, and I stumbled upon Zach's videos.
Cool. Now let me ask you, since you've been writing all these books, did you have any other prior educational courses into writing, or did you just hop in?
No, I majored in computer science. I have been writing since I was 12, and I never took classes or anything. I just did it. That's why I was actually kind of a little frightened when I first did my first campaign, because I never gotten any feedback or anything, but luckily it all worked out. People seemed to like my first book, and so I made sure I had an editor to look over my shit, and yeah.
An editor and a letterer professionally are the two best calls.
Yeah, I would say so.
But like Billy Crystal said in Throw Mama from the Train years ago, well, a writer writes. You're a writer, so you write.
That's right.
Now we're on Testament Volume 2.
Sure.
And you've wrapped up your... This didn't just launch. You're on your second 30, right?
Yeah, I'm on my second month. Yep.
All right. 6,737 USD, 109 backers, 112% of goal. But there's still lots of cool stuff to unlock. And we want to bring this project in front of as many people as we can. An orphaned Sellsword, descended from ancient gods, seeks allies to defeat a chaotic evil. Sounds good to me. So first off, let's take a look at the trailer.
Sure thing.
The trailer looked good. There was just one thing missing from me, which would have been a voiceover of the lines that came up, because a lot of people listen to these shows without actually watching them.
Right.
So they heard some really cool music, but they don't know what's going on. So for more, come to YouTube. Or better yet, go to the actual campaign and back it today.
That's right.
So why don't you give us a synopsis of the first issue?
Sure. So Testament 1 takes place on kind of a different world. It's a science fantasy series, focuses on Karl von Magnusson. He's basically a drifter and a mercenary in book 1. And not to spoil anything huge, but he goes on a quest of revenge against the king for wiping out his clan. And along the way, he learns he descends from royalty. So he essentially is part god. And he teams up with a rebel group, and after some back and forth, he lends his services to them. He doesn't want to work for free, so they pay him in order to help with their little rebellion. And yeah, it kind of ends on the cliffhanger in book 1. Then book 2 basically starts where they left off. Karl learns about his lineage. They go to basically the east of this world, which is basically China. Then they go to what is essentially the Middle East. And Karl unlocks more powers. The reader gets to see more of the world. Like book 1 takes place mostly in like a modern city, but in book 2 you see deserts, the Middle East. They encounter sand dragons. You can actually see it in the trailer and on the page. And yeah, lots of cool stuff I added in this book. So yeah, the main story is about 56 pages, and there's a bonus story that's about 12. That's basically a prequel. Fills in a lot of blanks.
And you have the featured tier.
Yep.
11% off, $75. Tell us about the featured tier.
I guess you have volume 1, which is about 64 pages. Both covers of volume 2, which are 68 pages, and then a little lore book, thinking it'll probably be about 16 pages. Goes into the background of the world and the history, so I don't have to shove a bunch of exposition and lines into the main story. You get to read this little side material.
Kind of like a world build look at what's going on in Testament.
Yeah, basically. I looked at D&D manuals and other stuff for reference, kind of see how they did it. There was also these magazines called Cry Havoc back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the feel I was going for.
Cool. And we have the Clayton Barton cover.
Yep, that's the variant. I'd like to do Joe Ball for all the main covers for the series, and then get some like killer artists for variants. Last time it was Rob Willis. This time it's Clayton. I'll try to find someone else for book 3.
And how many books do you see this arc going?
This specific arc is just 3 books.
Okay.
I'd like to do one-shots here and there of other characters in other time periods. which is a great thing about Karl having a bunch of ancestors. So you can do barbarian times or medieval. Yeah. Big into dark fantasy and Conan, so that'll be fun.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
And you've got a Testament Volume 1 reprint cover.
Yeah, I just added that so that people don't have to buy both books to catch up. They can just buy Volume 1. And if they like it, they can buy Volume 2 at a later date.
And the amazing Joe Ball cover.
Yep. That's basically the main cover. Yeah, I really like his covers. They're essentially movie posters. Just shows you all the hero, the side characters, and then the villain architecture in the background.
His work is phenomenal. So
yeah, we actually talk all the time about science fiction and fantasy and like biblical themes because he's doing death, and so there's a bit of an overlap, and we have the same influences, which is always fun.
Yeah, I remember asking him, you think you might ever switch over to digital? He's like, look at all the detail in my page and imagine if I could zoom in the crazy shit that I would put in there. Like, and it would take me like a year to do a cover. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can see that.
And there's some interior art. Like I said, I wanted to showcase more of the world. So the fantasy aspect of the series is shown in book 2 and will be in book 3. So they're essentially fighting a sand dragon. It's all mutated by plasma crystals, which are used for an energy source, but they can cause mutations.
That is one badass dragon, dude.
Yeah. I like to use, I used a worm from Norse mythology, a worm with a Y, as reference. That was fun.
That's pretty rad. And you can also get the another tier is the Joe Ball cover in the lore book for $40.
Yep. And lore book is basically just side material.
Yeah.
There will be illustrations. It's not just all text. There will be illustrations and such. And same thing with Clayton Barton plus lore book. And here you can see the Donald DeLay cover. He actually did this for me a few years ago, but I had 3 covers at the time, and I didn't want to do 3 on my first campaign. So I saved this for a later time.
I just like everything about this cover, dude. You get the join the fight poster, like shredded up a little bit on a busted up brick wall, the smoke coming up. Him and his wolf. Shotgun. It gives me like a little bit of Ash and the Evil Dead feel. And a gigantic sword. From the looks of it, and that gives me almost like a Final Fantasy.
Yes, I grew up playing Final Fantasy, so that probably was subconscious. But I designed him a little bit like Kaneda from Akira, just without red, it's blue.
Oh yeah.
And like he has a little icon on the back of his jacket.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And both covers for $45, so there's a bit of a $5 discount if you buy them together. So instead of $50, it'd be $45. And there's more interior art. There's the same artist on books 1 and 2, and colors are by Farah on the first half of the book. Here the characters are using modern weapons against basically samurai. The region they're from is very modern. 21st century, 20th century, and so the rest of the world is not as advanced because they don't have access to the technology. So they easily defeat the bad guys in the first half of the book.
Yeah, if I was facing samurai, I'd walk those guns too, and in some distance.
And actually, and a side note, in the backup story, it'll be 12 pages, black and white. You'll actually see what their city was like before they had all this advanced technology. So you'll see they were essentially from the 1800s. Like they advanced very quickly. So
Yeah, it's kind of like, the Enterprise mistakenly leaving a communicator behind, and everybody like gets into the tech, and next thing you know.
right. And there's the last painted sketch card by Preston Acevedo. We sold out the other two. Usually when something sells out, I just hide the tier so it doesn't clutter the page.
Mm.
But yeah.
Another chance for another Preston sketch card.
Yeah, I find it was the wolf and one of the female characters. So I find that the female characters in the Badass Wolf sell more than the main character. So I'll probably have Preston do another female sketch card. Like I posted one the other day, and that went by like pretty quickly. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's Sim sketch card. That's the last one. Actually, that's of a female. Funny enough. And
so that should probably sell.
Probably. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, and then this is the second half. This is like essentially the second half of the book. So these colors are by Marcos Martin.
Nice.
And there's Karl getting a new sword. His last sword was melted, so he helps himself to this sword that has mystical properties. Lucky for him. And they run into some pirates who, loot other ships, so they, have some advanced weapons. And
don't forget, we have Joe Ball sketch cards and books. There's one more left in that tier that you can get.
Right. And I have another series I did. I've done multiple campaigns, and so SOS. I have leftovers from my last campaign available. That's essentially like a dark comedy action series, black and white. It's pretty much the opposite of the campaign we're showing now, funny enough. But yeah, so if you order those, I can ship those right away.
All 3 volumes for $50. Good
Yeah,
deal.
that's about, let's see, 80 plus 50 is 130. So yeah, it's about 180 pages of content.
Oh,
yeah,
$50. Yeah.
And here's the lore book. The cover is Karl's ancestor Stefan, who's essentially like a barbarian Norse god, and yeah, you'll learn a bit about him and then all his descendants leading up to Karl.
Cool.
As I was mapping out the world and fleshing everything out, I just realized I had too much material, all these battles and other kings and such, and like it just seems like a waste not to use it for something. And so, yeah, it's basically just a side material that you can get. It delves into history, and I'm probably going to add some more material since we're pretty much done with it. So I'm going to add some more pages. Oh, and finally, there's a Booty Juice sketch card. He does I think he uses Copic markers. And that's actually the last one. The other 4 sold.
Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah, that would be Karl's grandfather. He's a gunslinger.
Very cool. And you can get Testament Volume 1 plus both covers of Volume 2 for $65.
Yep. And there's some interiors of the lore book if you scroll down just a little bit. Not every page will be a splash page, but there's like an example. So you see the parchment, old-timey kind of feel on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side you see a great illustration by Jason Crager.
Nice.
And I'll have multiple artists doing multiple things in the book.
Yeah, I like the parchment look. It makes you feel like you discovered some secrets or something.
Right.
We have some original art by Preston, an original page by Preston here.
Yeah, that's part of Volume 1. He did a 12-page backup, which was a painted story. That was actually his first time doing painted sequentials, and he was like, okay, I've never done this before. And so it turned out great, and we have all the pages remaining. And I just realized it like a few days ago, so I put them up there.
So you have a piece of original art by Preston, pencils, and then the painted piece afterwards, which looks phenomenal.
Yep. So yeah, that's if you buy Volume 1, and that'll be in the back of the book. And as for stretch goals, at 7K, my friend Ebi Canales is doing a trading card. At 8K, there's a print by Joe Ball. 9K, there's stickers, and 12K, there's a trading card. I have an idea for a 10K stretch goal, but I'm not sure of it yet, so I don't want to announce anything. But it'd be like an ash can, so you get more story for free. Stretch goals are essentially just free for all physical backers.
Very nice. I mean, the book looks great.
Thank you.
You got a good history of producing and fulfilling.
Yeah, that does help.
The fulfillment thing helps immensely.
Yeah.
This year was tough on people with we have a paper shortage. It's like, what do you mean? We have plenty of trees. Why do we have a paper shortage?
Yeah, that was in the beginning of the year, but it quickly died down, thankfully.
Yeah. And I was yelling at Neff to buy a chainsaw. I want my books. But him and Freak Girl came on, and we got to the bottom of it with them, and they gave everybody some updates. It was really cool. I like this. You have fantastic covers. Obviously, Joe Ball in Clayton, and the interior artwork is very cool.
Yeah, I try to like have the covers and interiors kind of flow. At least they don't have to match specifically, but they have to be on the same level of quality.
Yeah, it's just, really cool. Like the first book was 56 pages. This book is 68 pages.
Actually, the first book was 60. Thankfully.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, we added a stretch goal for more pages.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't reading the whole thing.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's not on this campaign. No, it's on the other one. But yeah, you can buy Volume 1 separately. Should have thought of that earlier. Like, people don't want to pay $50 for both when they can buy them separately. But yeah, I should be getting a proof copy from my new printer. I want to test out the proofs this weekend, at least for Volume 1. Volume 2 is like a little ways from being done. But, we're still in time for November, if not earlier.
What's better than getting a new comic around the holidays so you don't have to talk to relatives?
Right.
What are you doing? Yeah, I'm going to go in my room, read a book. Oh, what book are you reading? You wouldn't know it. Grandpa, do you back crowdfunded comic books? A what? Like I said. That's an imaginary conversation for me because my grandfathers are both dead. But
same here. But yeah.
But
speaking of which, there's Karl with his grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Book 1 is good, but book 2 really shines. I improved on the dialogue. Like I said, my editor helped me out immensely. I tried to flesh out, like, I finally figured out how the main character talks, like his voice and everything. I wrote short stories to kind of help, like, as writing exercises, and that helped me kind of flesh him out even more.
Yeah. Just to experiment with different things to, get it in there.
Right.
which is, always fun, but still. So, was SOS the first series you did?
Yes, on Indiegogo. That was like a dark comedy action series. Me and Ebi Canales did that. Canales did Iron Sights for Zach, and yeah, it worked out well, and he still does work for me here and there. But
So this is going to be your fifth crowdfunded comic.
Yep, and yeah, I just saw the numbers for Testament 1 last year. I'm like, oh, this is way more popular from SOS, and I have multiple of those books. I'm like, okay, I'll just stick with this series and wrap up SOS. And it's working out so far now, even in this economy and with gas.
Yeah, well, when you get your comic delivered, you don't have to worry about spending any money on gas. So it works out well.
Yeah.
Now, what are your backers numbers, percentage difference between volume 1 and currently on volume 2?
Pretty much the same. We haven't wrapped up the second month, so I'm not totally sure. But Testament 1 did 124 backers in its funding period. It made 7,300, I think. So yeah, we're pretty much on course to do that or more. So that's nice. I did notice that only half of my SOS backers came on board for the new IP, which was kind of surprising. So I actually found the other half were just new people, which kind of surprised me.
Well, that's good when you can draw new people in,
yeah,
and keep the numbers flowing. I mean, once you're funded, the big is done with, and you're like, okay, now let's build on this and get it up even higher.
Right. But yeah, doing pretty well. I do get a lot of I always check. You can check metrics on your campaign. I check visits, and I get a ton of visits, but I'm pretty sure it's just the economy dragging its feet. So yeah, but all things considered, doing pretty well, and we met our goal, so I'll be able to finish the book. I put in money for the book, and then I needed 6,000 to wrap things up. So yeah, we're all good, and I can pretty much get this book finished and out the door, hopefully in November.
So this and out in November, and are you keeping it in demand?
Oh yeah, no, I'll keep it open for a year from now. I probably won't be in any hurry for book 3. Still have to edit that, and I'm a bit of a slow writer, so that'll be a while.
So it'll be a while in between, so you have plenty of time to keep this in demand and see where it goes.
Yeah, if you keep something in demand long enough, eventually it'll sell, whether it fulfills or not. I think people just are waiting, or they just haven't discovered it yet. I've noticed with certain campaigns, if it fulfills, people back it, and then if it's in demand long enough, people will discover it eventually.
Yeah, so I've noticed that with other creators I've talked to, that especially creators that do retailer chairs.
Yeah.
They'll get contacted by lots of retailers that'll tell them, as soon as you've got it printed and you've got copies in hand, I'll take X amount to start with.
Huh, interesting.
But they don't want to order something that may or may not come to fruition.
Right.
They want to wait till some of the creators have their copies in hand, and then run me a discount number and a shipping number, and go from there. It's a we don't want something that might be. We want something that is.
Right.
Especially if there's some campaigns that are like 15, 20 grand fixed goal or something. Like call me if this happens. And that's pretty much it. It works out for a few people I know, and they still have retailers that come in and buy on the campaign. I know Sam Quinton says it's usually he gets like a 50-50 split.
Oh, interesting.
But he's also got like a private distribution deal where all of his books end up in pot shops because they're his main title, 47 Furious Tales, because it's violent and there's lots of blood. They seem to be popular with the potheads. I agree. So how long has this story been kicking around in your head?
Since 2017, so I'd say about 5 years. It was actually some of the notes I had for this series started with SOS. The characters were in the post-apocalypse, and they were finally met their match when Norse aliens arrived and started, fighting them. And I thought that was an interesting idea, so I saved that for something else, and that eventually became Testament. I had ideas here and there over the years, and I just compiled them all. It kind of all fell into place. And so it took me about a year or two to really flesh out this story. So I'd say 2019, I started writing the actual script. Spent a little too much time with world building when I should have stuck to character growth. But it all worked out.
And apparently it did, because we're here on book 2, completely funded. Just getting some more stuff.
Yep. Like I said, I'm a bit of a slow writer. So, yeah, 5 years is pretty standard with me.
I won't ask why he's not holding it in his other hand.
Yeah, I used influence from Tyr and Thor. Tyr is the one that gets his hand bitten off.
Now, I was looking at something down here. This piece right here.
Yep, it's a trading card. That's actually the main character's great-grandfather. He is a character I'd like to make a story about. We'll have to see how much interest is after book 3. Like I said, I want to do like maybe one-shots that take place in different time periods. So this is essentially the medieval time period.
Well, I would definitely be down to that. I love medieval times. I was just looking at the close-up of the bust of him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that would make an awesome 3D sculpt.
Yeah, it would actually, yeah. I do have a friend who has a 3D printer. So yeah, that's something I've considered. I just didn't have time for it for this campaign, but maybe book 3 we'll have some 3D miniatures.
They are very popular now.
Yep.
Because, well, we all like to play with toys. Like, where am I going to put this one? I don't know. Well, I got to tell you, the book looks great.
Thank you.
The campaign's doing well. I kind of like the idea of basically one village just finding like all this tech and stealing it. And showing a little bit of, a little bit of fight back with the evil samurai.
Yeah, basically that's what happens. Yeah, the rest of the world is very archaic and probably 1600s, 1700s, and then the main region is our period.
It's a very cool premise and a fantastic looking book.
Thank you.
And I mean, it's got a great page count, because that's one of the things I look for. And I'm like, I don't mind paying, $25, $30 for a book in graphic novel format that is going to take me probably a couple days, because you write like I read.
Yeah.
Because I'll read like the page, and then I'll sit there staring and looking at the art for like, 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll flip the page.
Yeah, I do like thick, meaty trades. I mean, I grew up reading floppies, but when I started reading comics again in my early 20s, I gravitate towards more trade paperbacks. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're, they stack up better on the shelf. You don't have to worry about bagging and boarding them.
Right.
You get one flat rate instead of, I mean, what's a floppy nowadays from?
I think it's $4.99, $5.99.
Some of them are like, I think $7.99 because they'll release like a regular one, and then they'll release one with the card stock cover, and the card stock cover is like $8, but they'll have, somebody in-house do cover A, but they'll have like, Art Germ or somebody do the card stock cover. Be like, let's make sure we sell all of these. I'm like, it almost feels like you're not buying a comic anymore nowadays. You're buying the art on the cover only. And, I won't say they're wrong. Once you open up the pages, it's usually a high disappointment for modern comics.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising. The mainstream has become indies, and the indies have become a bit of a mainstream. So
yeah,
didn't see that coming.
Brings lines like, from Vader on A New Hope. When I quit your company, I was the student, you are the master. Now I am the master, and you are unemployed. Congratulations. So we want to wish you all the luck with this book, and thank you very much for coming on and giving us a little peek into your world.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And hopefully this will far exceed numbers for you for volume 1. And we'll look forward to reading this sometime in the future. By future, I mean November.
Yeah.
So thanks very much for coming on. I know you had probably like a busy work day today.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap this one up for now, and this will be available on podcast wherever you download a podcast in probably about an hour or so. So I want to thank Chimera very much for coming on. Just let everybody know where they can follow you.
Sure. ChimeraComics.com pretty much has everything. My campaign and my website.
Cool. And all your social media links.
Yep.
So we'll look forward to that. Don't forget the link is not only in the chat, it's also in the show notes, either up above or down below, depending on where you're watching us. If you're listening to us on any podcast platform, if you go back to where you found the show and scroll down, it'll be there, so you can click on the link there as well. Dude, been great meeting you finally, and we wish you all the best, and we will talk to you very soon.
Thank you.